Good morning, Wicked Edge Expert Corner Group. This is Mark, and we're on YouTube and Facebook. What I have here is laid out some things in an attempt to tie together the last playlist, the sharpening that we did that I enjoyed immensely, and what I did, so that you all understand, is I intended to introduce steel hardness. And I did that choosing the hard steel VG10 60 Rockwell steel. I chose this particular knife because it's a good example of what we talk about with soft steels and hard steels. And it's common and it's available and it's inexpensive. And if you had to choose of the stainless steels, one of the steels, bang for your buck, easy to sharpen, it's VG10. But there's all kinds of varieties of steels, and we're going to talk about them. It was just to conjure up the conversation. I wanted to get into the BESS test that I did on this. And I made that video, and I don't mean to come across that it's no big deal, because I want to show you that this knife is very sharp, and it sharpens remarkably well. And with the way I did the BESS test with the pre-stress, it does seem to be improving the outcomes, because if we did it in a sense, this is everything here. I don't think I crossed one out, and I think I dropped one erroneous reading. So if you were to look at it, throw out the top, throw out the bottom, statistical analysis way, this knife is somewhere, comparing the two BESS testers, it's somewhere between 75 and 125. It's a very sharp knife, and I'm sorry if I didn't make that point, that I got caught up in my testing. What I'm hoping to see, if this is a 125 knife on one tester that reads in 25 increments, then the other tester I would expect to see somewhere between 110 and 130. Closer. And it's not closer. And I got caught up in the testing. And I did not talk about what I really should be talking about. It is the hardness of the steel and the sharpening and the process. And what I did was, while introducing the hardness of the steel, I chose one of my favorite whetstones to use, the sharpening stones, because I enjoy using them. The set that I used is right here. Let me give you a story about the sharpening glass. The original ones were on black handles. I bought these. These were originally made by Agenda Industries in the early 2000s, and they were being sold available at the Wicked Edge website, and then only from Agenda after that. And I started with them. Second whetstone. First whetstones were Shepton Curamako Pros. Another story. Anyway, I got these whetstones and I used them, and I loved them. And that first set that I ever bought is still being used. I gave those to my friend, and he's still using them. This is the second set. And they're very thick stones, and they last forever. Because they became unavailable and I'm a hoarder, I made another set that I have available to somebody who would like to adopt those. Shaptons made the original Shapton glass stone. where the glass came to the name, where we call them Shapton glass diamond stones. I call them Shapton glass diamond stones. What I call them is what I hear in my brain, so I don't know what other people call them, because there's not a lot of people that talk about these with me with guided sharpening sets, because they're sort of like an enigma, because they're expensive to buy to cut them. And originally, when you bought them, they were solid block stones and they didn't have glass. And they cut so clean, as you saw in my video, that the scratch pattern is remarkably similar to a diamond stone. And they're not really muddy, and they're not really messy, and they're easy to use and fun to use. But they're expensive stones. But for a ceramic composite abrasive stone that's consumable, they're remarkably like a diamond stone. So maybe the name Shapton glass diamond altogether, which is what I use to describe them, maybe I put them all together because of those things. I don't know. I don't know what other people call them. They're called Shapton glass stones. They're now available in the marketplace in an 7 series, which is not too much bigger than the Wicked Edge stones. Then they have an HR series and an HC series. But what sets them apart is that these original stones, they broke. When they made full-size stones for people to use for freehand sharpening, they broke. So they started laminating them on tempered glass to make them rigid. And then they worked great. And the glass goes with the name, Shapton glass stones. The stone, I don't know what it's about. The Kuramako Pro Stone's got a name. This has got a name, Shapton glass diamond stones. But there's no diamonds in it. And originally, the first sets that I started with, there's no glass. So I don't know where the names and diamonds, the diamond name gets attached because they cut so similarly to diamonds, I think. Anyway, so they make the 7 series. The 7 series can be mounted on Wicked Edge paddles, uni handle style, permanent mounted. They're not on a plate. When they mounted them on glass, when Shapton put them on glass, we lost the ability, we being Wicked Edge users, that would cut the stones and mount them on Wicked Edge paddles to use with our Wicked Edge sharpeners. When they started mounting them on the tempered glass, we could cut them no longer. So what exists is only a few things in the marketplace. This was my answer. And I partnered at the time the idea with Michael, and he and I both made our own Shapton 7 glass set of stones. I don't know if he pursued it all the way, the full set of Shapton glass 7, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 different grits. Why they call it Shapton 7 stones and there's 9 different grits is beyond me. But these are available from 600 grit through 7,000 grit. See, the 7s, the grits are different than the HC series, than the HR series, to keep them separate. And the sizes from the HC to the HR to the 7 series is different too. So these are an option that I came up with, and Michael and I both made. He made his own paddles, I make mine. And we use them and we love them because they are like using a diamond stone, but on hard steels they just work. They work like you would expect a diamond stone to work on sharpening a knife. In other words, You sharpen one of your knives with Wicked Edge diamond stones, and you go one to the other, you flip them around, one to the other, grit to grit to grit, just flip them around, and everything sharpens up and it polishes up and it looks great. Well, with those diamond stones, when I sharpened the harder steels, it became more difficult. It just wasn't that smooth sailing. And when I found the Shapton glass, and I used them, it was like using the diamonds on steroids. They just cut easily without all the downside. But then the downside was that you're working with the whetstone and they're not that messy. It's just a little bit more tedious to work with. And they're a lot more expensive. For instance, this set that I have of 12 stones, 6 grits paired, is like $600 worth of stones. So they're an investment. But these original stones that I still have, this is a 16,000, 30,000. So I barely use it because I sharpened this to 4,000 grit, and I'm getting readings between as low as 75 and up to 150. It's a very sharp knife, and I only stopped at 4,000 grit in a quick strop. Could you imagine the polish you could put on it going to 30,000 grit? So these stones, for me, they've lasted forever. I sent them to Doug. Doug is using them. They still had a half a lifetime on them after I used them for 5 years and lapped them pretty much every time I used them. So to talk about the Shapton, there is the original Shapton stones. What they were called, I don't know. The Curabaco Pro Stone had a name. And that's the one that's used like the comparer. We use 1,000 grit diamond stone as a basis for comparison, and we compare whetstones to the grit pattern of 1,000 grit stone. Well, the Curabaco Pro stone is like the 1,000 grit diamond stone for whetstones because it's a good cutter. The Shapton stones are known for cutting cleanly, nice scratch pattern, easy to sharpen hard steels. Other stones, like the Choceras from Nanawa, those have other qualities. They cut just as well, but they cut differently and they may be polished more. And we're going to get into that. I started with this because I wanted to use this Shapton glass stone. It's been a long time since I sharpened knives. And they give real good results. And we saw that. It's a very sharp knife. But it's just a segue into future conversations and future knife sharpening with different hard steels as we try to find how best to sharpen them. Because earlier in my sharpening experience, the resin stones were introduced and I only played with them a little bit. And now I'm trying to get together the collection of steels that I want to sharpen and start to compare the whetstones with the different diamond stones that I have, the Atamas, the Agendas, the Wicked Edge. I have Wicked Edge Premium stones and Wicked Edge Standard stones, which are both the monocrystalline diamonds as compared to other diamond stones like the KMEs and the Agendas, which are polycrystalline diamonds. So it's all kinds of crazy stuff to try to make sense of. And this was just an introduction. So we have the Shapton glass stones that we use to sharpen this. Whether they're harder to sharpen this, whether it's a more complicated process to use and why you use it, that I leave it up to you. I can tell you though that when I started using whetstones, it like opened me up to all kinds of sharpening experiences, good ones, that I wasn't having with just the diamonds. And yes, it's an expense. It's an expense because the stones are expensive. Then it's an expense because everything is impaired. You know, it's Wicked Edge. We have all the stones impaired. But if you don't drop them so that they break, and you take care of them and you lap them, one set of stones, if you buy one set that you like to use, one Tocera or Shafton or Sohiro, whatever you get into, it only takes one set. You don't have to have this variety. I'm obsessive. I wanted to play with everything. Thank you for listening. I hope that I tied it together. Let me just show you real quick. I'm talking about the Shaftons, and I don't want to forget. We started with the first Shaftons that I bought. Wicked Edge was selling them. And then we went to newer Shafton stones. And then they put glass on them. Come full circle. A couple years ago, they reintroduced the first stones without the glass, and now they call them Shafton Rockstar. And it's sometimes spelled Rockstar, one word, but sometimes it's a capital R and a capital S. Sometimes it's two words. I don't know. All I know is that this is like the original stones reintroduced, now without the glass, in a new size. The size of the stone is in a new size. It has all the same grits that Shafton started with the original stone that I don't know what it's called. I call Shafton glass diamond stones, but there's no glass and there's no diamonds. And now the Rockstar, you lose all that. It's just Shafton Rockstar, but it's like the same thing. Now they made them 10 millimeters thick, 8 by whatever it is, 8 by like 5 by 10 millimeters thick. Well, we're using 1 by 6s and 1 by 5s for Wicked Edge, so you got to cut off the length. And if you want to get enough stones out of it, you got to slice it so it becomes difficult for us to make these stones economically. It's already super expensive because they're expensive stones, and then we're getting 2 of each, and then we have to figure out how to use them. So this set that I commissioned to be made for me by Gen Industries, we cut them full thickness. This is a 10 millimeter whetstone that we mounted on the 1 by 6 handles. So this is a heavy stone, and it will last forever. But this set is about $1,400 in just the stones. Just to purchase these stones from Sharpening Supply, the Rockstar stones, before you ever start to cut them and back them and plate them. So it is an investment. But that's the only way that we can get these Shafton stones into the fixed position guided angle sharpening market. Or not market, not to make them available to sell, but just to make them available for us to use them. Whether you buy them on your own and you cut them, that's why I'm talking about that. You can cut them and mount them yourself. You don't have to, everything, all these stones, so you understand they are manipulated to these sizes by stone makers and people like myself. This is a afterthought. The fixed position guided angle sharpening market. We're taking freehand stones and we're figuring out how to use them with the Wicked Edge. And I'm trying to give you the story here. I don't know, it's probably interesting to some people about the Shaptons, the history, and probably not interesting to most of you. But the Shapton glass diamond stones is the one whetstone of all my whetstones that's a fast cutting, clean cutting, and most resembles a diamond stone, and they're an absolute pleasure to work with. And I don't know about hard steels. As the last thing I'm going to talk about. I don't know about hard steels. It's been a long time since I sharpened my ZDP 189, which is way up there on the Rockwell score. I think it's 64 or 65. So I bought a Spyderco with S110V last night. So I had something to sharpen. I looked for the S120V that I saw someone sharpening yesterday, and I couldn't find anything that suggested that there was an S120V. So it must be that new, or maybe there was a misunderstanding. But I bought a Spyderco with S110V so I can use it and sharpen it. And I'm trying to remember that knife. Bradford knives, and it's a Magna Cut, is the chef knife that I have, that is a CPM steel, not a Japanese chef knife steel. So that is one of the steels that is used in carry knives. So I don't want to have this channel and only talk about chef knives, because it disincludes all of you that are using folding knives and everyday carry that have a whole different steel. So you see, well, that's not my steel, so how he sharpens it has nothing to do with me, because I'm not using those steels. So I'm trying to amass a collection and variety of steels so that what I say does mean something to everybody. My attempt. Anyway, thank you for listening. This is Mark at the Wicked Edge Expert Corners group, where we talk about everything knife sharpening with Wicked Edge and the mediums in the marketplace. Thank you.